some more.
Yo, what's good, people? Izzy Max here, and this is going to be the Week 1 breakdown for the MDL, the Max Doubles League. With me today, I do have one of the backup coaches and a very knowledgeable good friend of mine, Ryan.
I am back again.
Yeah, so we're just going to kind of go through what happened, kind of like what we've seen, what coaches kind of could do a little bit different, or where some prepping things went wrong. We don't know sets, we just know what they brought and how many kills they got. And then when we go to the matches that I actually have a recording for, there'll be short little bits when I start editing this. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started into the first game. This was Matt against Jizzy, and the league as a whole, during the pick'ems, picked Matt as the winner, and he rightfully won. So you recently watched this match, so let me have your thoughts.
Yeah, this match featured a lot of really good prep on Matt's end. In particular, I think that the brutal swing was just brilliant on the crocodile. I would have never even thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
Having a scarf chandelier was really smart. The burning jealousy was a good play. Really helped him deal with Durant really nicely. And the mons he brought just had a solid matchup. I mean, if you're looking on the screen right now, crocodile, Duraludon, Kiss, like Barathorn, that deals with everything that Jizzy brought that week. He pretty much predicted, called them out, played his game very smoothly, and took a really, it was a very commanding game.
Yeah. The snipe shot on the Inteleon was really smart. I really did enjoy seeing snipe shot because of the Ndidi. But on Jizzy's end, one thing I kind of wanted to see more was the Zoroark. He never brought it. I feel like the Zoroark could have really baited the Chandelure.
Yeah,
or
could have baited Chandelure.
Yeah, and I think it could have really put in some work.
Yeah, I actually think the misspring here was Lycanroc. I would have put Passimian in that spot for sure.
So I'm gonna actually disagree with you because a Cellrock, Oko Chandelure, it could Oko the Togekiss depending on the set. And then
Really? Oko a Togekiss?
If it's Choice Band, I think so.
Holy crap! Dang.
Choice Band, Tough Claws, Accelerock, it chunks.
That's true. Tough Claws, I forgot about that.
Yeah, but when he brought it out, he had Psychic Terrain up, and I seen Sucker Punch and Accelerock on the set, so I don't know how much help the Lycanroc was actually doing.
Kind of a big issue for that. Maybe then instead of Zoroark, I might bring Passimian, because I think a Passimian could have scared Matt a little bit more. It also, if you notice, would have hit between knockoff and close combat, would have hit the whole field pretty well, except for Kiss.
It even gets Iron Head though.
Yeah, it even gets Iron Head, so it can even hit Kiss okay once it maxes.
Yeah, and Seed Bomb as well, so it literally had coverage for everything.
Yeah, like you just run like an AV set, especially because the team is so specially off-oriented right now. 4 of the 6 are special attackers.
Right.
And Pharaoh and Inteleon are not dealing well with a Passimian. However, that's also kind of retroactive. We can see the 6 mons that Matt brought, and Matt had plenty of Passimian answers if he had brought a Moongus.
Right.
Like, Passimian wouldn't have done anything. So I can definitely see where their heads were at. It was certainly a really good showing by Matt. I think it kind of cements last week when we talked about his place in the ladder. I don't think that has changed.
No, I don't. I do think Jizzy probably fell a little bit.
I think he fell slightly. However, it certainly to me still strikes me that I think Jizzy's going to do well over the course of the rest of the season after watching the game. I think he still has the options. I think one thing that Jizzy needs to consider is I was looking kind of at his mons and what he was doing, and he's running like very standard stuff. In comparison to Matt, who brought some really creative brings. The Scarf Chandelier with the Burning Jealousy, the Brutal Swing. I mean, that sort of mindset is really what you need for a draft league setting, because if you can predict around what your opponent's bringing, and you can bring really, really like creative techniques that like will throw your opponent off, that surprise factor can really win you sets.
Right. Okay, let's go ahead and sorry about that, my recording kind of biffed. We're gonna kind of recap what we said.
Yeah.
Probably the best game of the week.
Yeah, of the ones that we could see, I would agree.
Yes. Kind of some key point outs, and this is kind of going to be a little watered down because we did just kind of go in depth. I like the Grassy Seed on the Acelgor. Was super clutch. The Will-O-Wisp.
The MVP.
Yeah, the Will-O-Wisp on game 3 won Hubbub the match. And then the no fake out pressure kind of hurt Brock a little more than it helped in this match.
I actually think you could still bring a Banded Rillaboom, but you would need to replace the Mudsdale with a Raichu in that case. But even still, I think a Grassy Seed or a Life Orb or maybe even AV Rillaboom might have been the bring that week.
Right.
However, I think this was a really good set. Both players adjusted really well to each other. After Brock won with the Togetic Cinderace lead, Hubbub sat down and went, okay, let's see how my normal win con play works out. And then Brock adjusted to that in game 3. There's a lot of good adjustments going on. It showcased a lot of really high level play from both players. My favorite play of the entire thing was when it was I think it was an Energy Ball or a Giga Drain from the Venusaur.
Oh, and the Goodra.
Switch into Sapsip or Goodra.
Yep.
Man, that was such a good read.
I mean, speaking of Venusaur, though, I'm really happy it did a lot of work outside of Sun. Like, she had no opportunity to set her Sun.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
But yeah, 4-1 from a Venusaur.
Yeah, it was a very good set, though. Both players should be pretty happy with how they played. I think it ultimately just came down to sets. I think the play was not the issue for either player.
Well, let's also talk about how clutch the Comfey was.
Yeah, Comfey did a lot of good work.
Comfey in grassy terrain is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's very hard to deal with. Don't let those 2 deaths fool you. Comfey carried a bunch of the first match.
Right. And I was talking to Brock after the game. He said that he forgot to max at the beginning, so he was kind of forced to max his Comfey there at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that matters because I think Hawlucha ended up going down, or would have went down anyway.
Yeah.
And he also crit the Palossand on the turn he was supposed to max with acrobatics, so it would have been the same base power with the crit. So I don't think him forgetting to max actually ended up mattering. But just to note there. I think that's it here. Like I said, I think the Will-O-Wisp and the Acelgor actually kind of won Hubbub the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. A very good set, though, from both players.
For sure.
I think that their standings, by and large, stand for themselves, honestly.
Yeah, and the league voted for Hubbub to actually win, and she did. And the differential you see is because Acelgor actually killed itself without anybody targeting it with the final gambit. So technically the game was a 1 Pokemon favor in Hubbub, but Acelgor didn't get touched. It just kind of obliterated itself. So
yeah, we were talking prior to this, prior to recording the video, a little bit about that. I commented that if something had targeted the Acelgor and then it final gambited, I think the kill should have gone to whatever it final gambited, but seeing as nothing actually put any pressure on it, that does make sense to me.
Right.
Similar thing if you have a Life Orb and the Life Orb kills you, but the last Mon put you in the range for the Life Orb to take you out, that would probably be the kill for the Mon that put you in range.
Yeah, correct. Also, I don't think these guys move at all in their power rankings. We both had them. I think Hub was 3rd and Brock was 5th or 6th. I think they stay the same where they're at.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Okay, next up is the only game that the league actually guessed wrong. We guessed Nin to win. Toxic ended up winning. This is one game we actually didn't get to watch, so I'm going to kind of let you take over here at first and talk about what might have been going on here.
The first thing I'm noticing on Toxic's side is the Charizard has 3 KOs, which makes a lot of sense to me. He didn't really... I mean, he brought Steelix, obviously, which can do some Rock Slide pressure, along with the Darm, but if the Darm's not Scarf, then I feel like that can handle it pretty well.
Yep.
I do like the Mons that Ninblocks brought overall. I think on Pheasant might have been it's kind of the odd one out for me. I'm not sure what that was supposed to do.
It's just discount Togekiss. Like dollar store, maybe Dollar Tree Togekiss, because it doesn't get follow me. It's just the super luck crit stuff.
But we see the Sandcore got some kills. We see Excadrill T-Tar did pretty well for itself. We do see Garbodor got a kill, which is genuinely kind of surprising. Yeah, considering the matchup. I mean, it does beat Clefable, which I think is smart to have a good Clefable counter. He didn't really have a good Clefable counter outside of Excadrill.
Right.
And even Excadrill doesn't really want to take like a Flamethrower or a Mystical Fire.
Right, So one thing...
I'm actually not super surprised by this. If you had asked me who was going to win, I probably would have said Toxic. Toxic was higher on the rankings than Ninblox last week when we discussed this, and Toxic pretty much brought his core. Like his core, like 4 Mons are on the list right now.
So I'm one of the ones that actually voted for Nin, and it was solely because of the Darmanitan Sableye.
Yeah, just because that really has a good...
That has a good matchup against
that can...
everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the Hitmontop would have been the only problem, but as we see, I don't even think he brought it, just from my guess.
My only comment on that is I think that Prankster Meowstic could have really helped with that. I think that like if you Thunderwave the Sableye, or if you Thunderwave the Darm itself, like even if you have the quash pressure, like all of a sudden you're not moving a lot. Also, screens could really help him in this matchup because Ninblox's offense is pretty frail.
Yeah,
and it's almost all it's like mostly physical. So if you put like a good Reflect up, and then kind of let Charizard like ride that Reflect out through the match, like, or Excadrill T-Tar, I think that could really secure you the win.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not surprised. If I were him, I would maybe bring Hitmontop to one of the games, but considering what Hitmontop had to deal with, I don't think it would have been great in the matches. It had 4 resists and was getting hit super effectively by most of Ninblox's team. And Intimidate's nice against Darm and Steelix, but I don't really think it would have made that big of a difference.
No. One thing that might look a little weird is that we see a +2 and a -3. Since this is one game we couldn't watch, I have no idea what happened.
Okay.
So I don't know if Nin is actually at a -3 or if Toxic should be at a +3. Like, I don't know what happened here. I'm going to guess it has something to do with the sand.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll have to... You figure that out for yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
Overall, I think, just power ratings for these two, I don't think change a lot.
I don't think change it. I think Nin was like at the very bottom and Toxic was like upper middle.
Yeah, and I think that really hasn't shifted.
Yeah, I think Toxic has to play someone more on the upper echelon to actually be able to move.
Agreed.
But yeah, so next up, is me versus Dark King. I think me and Matt were the only people who clean swept the votes. Yeah.
And that doesn't surprise me. You had a really good matchup against Dark King. However, that said, this is a little deceptive. Game 1 was very close.
Game 1 was super close. Okay, so if I didn't have the Trick or Treat, I lost.
Yeah, it was a very close Game 1. Dark King actually made a very good showing for himself in this match. I know it's a -5 differential, so it doesn't...
It's -5 because I 4-0'd him in Game 2.
Yeah. However, like, the thing that really stuck out to me that I didn't realize about Dark King's team when we were discussing it is the sheer amount of fake out pressure.
Oh my god, it put me in such a bad spot.
3 of these Mons can do fake out. Like, you need to be running Protect on like all of your Mons if you face Dark King. And he doesn't really have a lot of speed control, but that fake out pressure was so unbelievably hard to deal with, especially with that Porygon Z just kind of sitting there being able to do what it needed to do. Right. Porygon Z was definitely his MVP. It certainly showed why Porygon Z is getting used a lot, like in the larger metagame right now.
Oh, for sure.
On your end, Gourgeist actually really proved its worth, I think. I think Gourgeist won you Game 1, like you said. Did a lot of really good work going forward.
If my audio wasn't recording, I'm going to fix that later, but I don't. I think it was. I can cut that. Anyway, I'm actually going to make your day. I know some of his sets. He actually ran Weakness Policy Incineroar with Bulldoze, Trick Room, Runerigus.
Heck yeah. That's one of my favorite combos. It really wouldn't have actually done a whole lot,
No.
I think, against what you brought.
Mm-hmm.
But had you not had Prim in the back, I actually think that could have been a pretty good option for him.
Yeah. Well, and I told him, like, before the match, he's like, I'm terrified of your team. I was like, yeah, I can tell because you really don't know what I'm going to bring, which is a good part about my team.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can see, I had more... Gorgai's got to kill.
Yeah.
But I have more things that can do offensive pressure. But when I looked at his team, the only thing I was really, like, 100% worried about was the Porygon Z.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And other than that, I really didn't care. Other than game one, I was actually worried because I couldn't actually hit the Grimmsnarl very effectively.
Yeah. About to say, if I were on your shoes, I'd be worried about Grim and Porygon Z mostly.
Which is why in game two, I led my choice specs pre-Marina and just obliterated the Grimmsnarl.
Yeah, which I think is a completely fair play. No, it was a very good set. Actually, you also were currently ranked the top person in the league. I don't think Dark King should really move. I was actually very impressed by how he played.
I actually think he should move up.
Yeah, I would almost lean towards moving him up. Personally, though, I think we should just keep him the same. We need to see how he does against some of the other teams, especially some of the teams that are faster or have really hard trick room. Because part of the thing is your team is
super hyper offensive,
but it's very hyper offensive.
Yeah.
And his team has very mid speed mons with a lot of fake out, which was how he was able to apply so much pressure. I need to see how he deals with teams that can deal with fake out a little bit better, and how he deals with teams that are like hard trick room. Like how does he mitigate and handle that? Because his teams, I still stand by that his team's biggest issue is those very middle of the line speed tiers.
Right. And one thing I'm noticing with the 6 that he brought, if I brought Colossal, he just loses.
Yeah.
Colossal just hard sweeps his team.
Yeah, no, agreed.
But, okay, that's that match. Next up, we have Tay and C Rad. I actually watched this match live, and holy crap, did C Rad impress me.
Okay.
I'll kind of...
doesn't surprise me.
I'll kind of break it down just a little bit, and then you can kind of give me your ideas. So, game one, Tay led Whimsicott and Toxtricity. This was a choice specs Toxtricity. And I think in the back he had Dracovish and Diggersby. Diggersby was clutch. I'm going to tell that now. Diggersby was so good. But we seen Porygon 2 just was a complete menace. He couldn't kill it because he didn't bring his fighting type. And it just put in so much work. This was Air Balloon Magnezone.
Magnezone. That was what I would expect, yeah.
And then the Noivern, which really surprised me, was Taunt Noivern. So it really dealt with the Whimsicott.
Whimsicott, yeah. Well, we discussed Taunt Noivern when we were doing our last video. I wouldn't be surprised to see Taunt Noivern almost every week, really.
The thing that kind of turned it back into Tay's favor, because after game one, I really thought Tay was just done, was the Whimsicott Cobalion.
Yeah, beat up.
Yeah, it was super, super, super just like devastating. And this was a Ghost Silvally, by the way.
Ghost Silvally. That's actually a really smart bring.
Yeah, so that's kind of what happened. I think his Dynamax was Rhyperior twice and then the Corviknight once.
Okay. So I'd just kind of like to talk about my thoughts on this matchup. I actually went back and kind of reviewed all the teams a little bit more in depth. I kind of looked at some of the deeper strategies, move pools for every single team. And there were a few teams that stuck out to me that I feel like I kind of discounted a little bit in our last breakdown. And the biggest team that I felt that way towards was C Rad's team. Because
same.
I was looking, and I went back and I looked and I went, there's some things here that I kind of missed upon first glance that have a little bit more depth of game than I kind of realized. Notably Tangrowth, actually. I did not realize Tangrowth was one of the only Rage Powder users available right now. which I did not realize at the time, but that's actually huge for his team. Really helps him out. In general, just some things that stick out to me here. I actually am not super surprised Tay Breezy won this match. When I got the news, it didn't really shock me, mostly because I thought Whimsicott Kobalian, C Rad had a hard time dealing with. Like, even just prior to even seeing the match, I thought that would be tough for him to beat. Combine that with having Toxtricity as one of his mons, like
And
Toxtricity and
Dracovish.
Diggersby. I wasn't surprised to see Diggersby. I'm slightly surprised to see Dracovish. I wouldn't 100% that. Umbreon isn't super shocking. It has an okay matchup against this team.
So after talking with Tay, Dracovish was his hard Rhyperior counter.
That makes sense. No, C Rad has in the past proved himself to be an extremely skilled singles player. I know he's new to doubles, but it doesn't surprise me that he made a really strong first showing. But I'm also not surprised that Tay won the match, mostly because Tay was ranked fairly highly in the.
I think he was like third or fourth.
Yeah, he got like, I think he's fourth.
Yeah.
He's got a great team, and I know he's had some good doubles experience, and he really brought the right things to deal with what most of C Rad could bring.
I wish I would have seen the Umbreon. But he didn't bring it at all.
Yeah, so no, congrats to both players. I don't think either of them move. I think C Rad was middle ladder-ish.
Yeah, he was.
And based off of this showing, I didn't see the game, but for now I would say he stays the same, but I wouldn't be shocked to see C Rad move up in the coming weeks.
I wouldn't either. And the one main thing why we, as a league, kind of discounted C Rad's team was because he has a lot of ground weaknesses. But when you also look at his team, he also has Noivern, Corviknight, Silvally. Yeah. Like he has a lot of good answers to those ground moves.
No, he
and
most definitely does.
Yeah, and he made a change, so we'll get to that next. And then I think, our last match is Hunter and John. The league actually voted for John, surprisingly. I voted for Hunter. I'll tell you that now. But John actually came out and really played well. The one thing that really surprises me is the Rabombi having 3 kills and 2 deaths.
I said it in the last video. Don't underestimate Rabombi's offensive pressure. I'm telling you what, that Mon's special attack is constantly slept on. Quiver Dance Rabombi can really do a lot. I don't know if it was Quiver Dance or not, but even still.
It was. And he told me something here, and if I can find it, just giving you a little insight on the set, he calced it to where a +1 Quiver Dance actually outsped like his entire team.
Yeah.
I think it was outsped Kingdra in Rain.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing. And that actually is something that gives me a lot of confidence in John Boy. John Boy is also a team that I went back and I looked back at and had very similar thoughts to C Rad. Where I think that there was something. I actually commented in the video that I thought John Boy's team should be ranked higher than it was. And I actually, more than anything this week, kind of proves to me that I stand by that statement after hearing that. Hunter, I actually think, brought really good mons for this matchup overall.
The offensive Alcremie, I think, was really key.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart bring. I actually think Rabombi on John Boy's end being a Quiver Dance set probably really helped him with this set, and I think that was a really genius bring. Definitely the Jellicent was smart. It really deals well with Lapras. What would have been a really cool play would have been to run a no item Jellicent, so that way
the Poltegeist
on a potential Marowak, that would have been really cool.
One thing you're seeing is
with 3 kills.
Yeah, and I wonder how many of those were actually sand kills. But I know he brought Gigalith to kind of counteract the rain.
The rain, which makes sense to me.
One thing you're seeing though is you see Arcanine Persian. That was not the strategy. This was an AV Arcanine, completely supportive.
Cool.
Yeah. Said I was talking to him. He said he brought Persian just to scare him.
That actually is. I actually think that's very smart. And that's one of the things too that you can always do in these leagues when you have them on like Arcanine is you can fake people out. You can make them think, oh, he's gonna run the beat up, whatever, and then nope, just this is just support Arcanine.
Yeah, exactly. I do think John moves up. I do think John moves up, but I think Hunter kind of stays the same. He was kind of middle of the pack.
I would definitely say John moves up. John, I already thought he had a good team and was a solid player, and that nothing this week has, like, just the prep that I'm hearing happened alone tells me that he needs to move up a little bit.
Right. So for the last slide, we actually have transactions. The way this league works is every Sunday, well, after everybody plays their game, we move into what's called a transition period. Everybody can make one transaction. Once a week, this is how this is going to work. You don't get, like normal leagues, three transactions through the whole league. You get one a week. And we started at the bottom. So this is kind of where the people lay. We do not have Hubbub because she opted out, and we don't have John because they opted out. And Matt is blank because we're still waiting on his pick.
Yeah, and you might not get your pick.
I might not get mine, but this is what I'm shooting for. So from the bottom, let's go ahead and talk. Jizzy is dropping Butterfree for Frostlass. This actually helps his Tauros a lot.
It does help Tauros because you can do a Frost Breath strat. However, that said, you're also losing Sleep Pressure, Rage Powder, and a potentially really good Gmax Mon by losing the Butterfree. I don't really know if this trade's going to be worth it for Jizzy in the long run.
After looking back at his team, that was really the only thing he could, like, trade, I guess.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. It's just I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that works out.
That plays off. Frostlass is traditionally not a very good doubles mon.
But
neither was Butterfree until this season.
But otherwise, he had no way of really using his Tauros.
Yeah, it gives him that option.
Right. Okay. And then Dark King actually dropping Caparajah for Fungus,
which I think is a great switch.
I do too. Caparajah probably wasn't doing anything for him.
No, I don't think so either, especially because he already had so many like good Gmax options. Eviolite Fungus, I think it still gets Spore. Yep. It has Rage Powder.
Yep.
You basically get a Moongus.
With 5% more damage.
Yeah, like it's a very, very solid trade. The only issue is mostly the big reason why people use Amoonguss over Fungus is having like
Cobra Berry. Yeah.
Having Cobra Berry and being able to run things like Rocky Helmet and Leech and Leftovers and things like that are really beneficial to Amoonguss as a whole. Fungus has to run Eviolite to function. However, that said, this is definitely a very good transaction for Dark King, especially considering his Mons. Going to really help Porygon Z out, which I think is still his main sweeper.
For sure.
And it's really going to help him be able to do a lot more strategies. I think that this is one of the best trades on the table, I think.
Right. So next up, we actually have a one that I like as well. Lantern for Slowking. So he's trading really like ground weakness while keeping a water type. And I really like Slowking. So
Slowking is has had some traditional doubles play in the past, very little. But I know it has had traditionally a little bit of doubles play. Very bulky, very good Trick Room sweeper potentially. And Slowking and Slowbro are also hard to hit. It's really cementing to me is that C Rad wants his team to have some bulk to it now. He had a lot of mons that are kind of frail that get hit pretty hard. Slowking is amazing for patching that up. It's a good Dynamax option, I think. Great Trick Room sweeper.
Belly
and
drum.
I think that leaning harder into that Trick Room is a lot. Is really good for him.
And it just shows what kind of player he is. He noticed he has a super big ground weakness, and he's trading in one of those ground weaknesses while keeping the water typing.
While keeping that nice bulky water type. I think that was a really smart trade.
So next up is a trade that actually is confusing.
Yes.
Is Gengar for Weezing.
I don't think Weezing is bad on Ninblox's team at all, but I think that there were lots of other mons to trade.
Ghost is so good offensively.
Yeah, there were lots of mons to trade that weren't Gengar on his team. Ninblox already has quite a few mons that I would personally trade for Weezing, and Gengar was not even on the consideration list. When we were discussing Ninblox's team, I even commented I thought Gengar was one of his best mons.
Now, seeing this transaction, though, I wonder how big Thunder Wave from the Meowstic actually screwed him up. Because this might be why he's making this change.
It might be. However, I still don't think it was I don't know if I can support this trade 100%. We'll need to see long term.
Yeah, we'll have to see long term because Wheezing is one of those mons that are kind of super underexplored, I feel like.
Yes, no, I actually think Weezing's a great mon, and I think it's good on his team. And I have no issue with him picking up Wheezing, like, conceptually. I just think that
I would have dropped Unpheasant.
yeah, like, you could have dropped Unpheasant, you could have dropped Weavile, you could have dropped all sorts of mons.
Right.
That were not going to be doing as much for you, I think.
Next up, another really good trade. Espeon for Driftblim.
Yes. So Driftblim might come out of left field for some people. I was actually the one who recommended this trade. Brock messaged me, and we've been kind of talking a little bit. I recommended Driftblim. The main reason why, Driftblim gets Unburden, so it can do Grassy Seed Unburden.
Tailwind.
And it can use Tailwind.
Yep.
It is now, outside of Whimsicott, this is the best Tailwind option available in the league, I think.
I would say third because you do have Talonflame.
Oh yeah, I forgot someone drafted Talonflame.
Yeah.
So it's the third best. But even still, that is very good Tailwind. The other thing is Driftblim is actually, like, offensively pretty solid, and it's extremely bulky.
Oh yeah.
It's like a good Dynamax option, and it also is highly. It can really go either way. You can do supportive Tailwind sets with, like, Will-O-Wisp and Strength Sap and all sorts of stuff, or you can just go hard offensive Driftblim, Dynamax, and just try to win the game with it.
Right.
I think this is a great trade. The other thing is that you're not usually going to be bringing both Hawlucha and Driftblim to the same game.
Right.
I don't think. So I don't think it really affects that Grassy Seed usage a whole lot.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either. Next up is actually a trade that I influenced, and I think is actually really, really good, is Hunter Exploud for Klefki.
That's a good trade.
So he previously had to rely on Dynamaxing Lapras to get the rain, and I feel like Klefki kind of opens his team up a lot more.
A lot. I agree. Yeah, having Thunderwave, having the priority Rain, having Ally Switch,
Screens,
Training Kiss, yeah, Screens,
Safeguard, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Hunter's team really needed something like Klefki, and that was my biggest criticism of his team, was that it needed something to set Rain, it needed something to do those things for it. That was a great trade. I really have no complaints about it.
It's weird to say that one Mon can transform a team, like, exponentially, really, but I think Klefki did.
We're actually seeing this with a lot of the trades. I think Fungus is going to transform Dark King's team. I think that the Slow King's going to transform C Rad's. I think the Driftblim's really going to transform Brock's team. I think this Klefki's going to really transform Hunter's team as well.
Right. And then kind of moving backwards again, we have Rotom Heat for Lilligant.
Which is a bit odd. I do like it, though. I think picking up a grass type was smart, and there aren't a ton of good grass types left.
Virizion.
Oh, Virizzion's left?
Yeah.
Why wasn't Virizion drafted? Okay, now I'm a little more confused. That said, Lilligant, I really like that mon in singles quite a bit. It does have Sleep Powder, which is nice. I believe it gets Sleep Powder.
Well, the thing is, its main ability is Chlorophyll, and he has no way of setting the sun outside of Charizard, but that's probably going to be a G-Max Charizard 9 times out of 10.
Right. However, Rotom Heat wasn't doing a lot for his team. I actually would have, if I was to go back and trade this out, I would have done Rotom Heat for Heliolisk. Because Heliolisk benefits from
all weathers.
Dry Skin. It benefits from, you can get Sandville up, which is a little kind of niche, but it's still good. And you also can get Solar Power going. And even though Heliolisk is, I think, a little frail for doubles, and it has some certain weaknesses, all of a sudden you have a ghost immunity, you have a potential water immunity, and all these other things. And considering what some of the teams are packing, I think Heliolisk would have been a better switch there, because I feel like it wasn't. You probably still want an electric type on toxic team, right?
Well, even with his main core, it's Water Weak, Water Weak, Water Weak with Excadrill, T-Tar, and Charizard.
Right, so you want to get something that can deal with a water type attack, and Heliolisk would be amazing in that slot. Especially like Dry Skin or Sandville would both be really good on that mon. So that's just my 2 cents.
So the next one is Tay, and he actually drops Sigilith for Ludicolo, giving him a rain option.
Yes, that's a great trade. Also Fake Out.
And he previously, I don't think, had a grass type.
No. Ludicolo is also a really good Maxmon option on his team.
Mm-hmm.
He has Pellet Burst, and I commented that that felt like to stop a trade, but he didn't have anything to kind of utilize it with. Ludicolo is a great mon to utilize that with. I think
100%.
it was a really good trade. I think he'll be bringing it. I actually think it just ups his team overall. Like,
It
just
gives him
having
another
Ludicolo,
threat that people have to be prepared
as
for.
someone who's known for using rain,
Yeah.
I can tell you Ludicolo is a very good rain sweeper. Definitely one of my favorites. It's very versatile too. A lot of people kind of sleep on the fact that you can do sub leech seed stuff with it, even in doubles. That kind of strategy works pretty well for it. And it's a good weakness policy and AV user. It's good with life orb. There's a lot of versatility with Ludicolo that isn't present with a lot of other rain sweepers, and that's one of the reasons I really like it.
Right, and having Pelipper use U-turn to proc the weakness policy is just brilliant. So
yeah, absolutely.
Next, of course, we have Matt. I don't think he's posted his transaction yet, but I'm last, and my transaction, if Matt doesn't pick up Ditto, is going to be Berserker for Ditto. So I'm going to let you kind of talk about what this means, I guess, and then I'll kind of give my 2 cents.
So, Berserker for Ditto, I don't really think you were bringing Berserker very often with your team. I know you talked about it being one of your favorite picks in the last video, but I was kind of sitting there like, yeah, it's okay.
It is my
Ditto,
only
however,
steel type.
Yeah, Ditto, however, I think is a really good bring. The part of the reason why I think Ditto is going to work out really well for you is that there are a lot of mons that you can steal options from, and one of the things is with this league is there's a lot of boosting options, and your team is one of the most guilty of having so many options to boost.
Yep.
Ditto is traditionally used mostly in Uber formats. Any format in which you can utilize Uber Pokemon, Ditto typically sees usage, because Imposter Ditto also copies stat changes. So you run a Choice Scarf Ditto, copy the stat changes, and then reverse sweep. Ditto gives you that option, especially it helps you a lot with rain and sand teams that we're seeing. It gives you good positive matchups against them. It also just adds to your unpredictability. It's very, like, you can basically just throw a Choice Scarf Ditto on any given week, and then all of a sudden your opponent goes, wait, what's he stealing from me? What's he doing?
Right. Well, let's say I'm going against Nin, Toxic, who has the Sand Core.
Yeah.
Well, if he doesn't have an answer to his own Excadrill, I kind of just win.
Yeah, and
I can max I can max my own Ditto.
And you can do that kind of thing to all sorts of teams. You can do it to Hub Up's team. You can take that Palo Sand, use it. You can take the there's other setup options all over the place. But yeah, you can.
My team lacks Fake Out. I can take a Fake Out user.
Yeah, that's true. So Ditto, I think, is a good pick for you. I actually do think it helps your team out. I also think Ditto's good because I feel like someone could have potentially been looking to pick up, and if they pick up Ditto to beat your team, that would make a lot of sense.
And that's another reason why I picked it up. Ditto is a hard counter to my team.
Yes, as a whole, and getting that option off the table, I think, is really smart. I don't think you're going to be doing a whole lot more trading though over the course of the season.
No.
I actually think several of these trainers will probably not be doing a whole lot more trading. I think Tay will probably stop relatively soon. I think Brock maybe has a trade left in him, but probably he'll mostly be running the same stuff.
I think Nin and C Rad are really going to take their time and like really think about what their transactions are, because this is really going to be how they transform their team.
I think C Rad in particular is going to be making a lot of very scary trades over the coming weeks. The Lantern for Slowking was already extremely solid, and I think he's just going to come up with more. I think Toxic will continue to trade. I'd highly recommend that Toxic do continue to trade to kind of fix some of the lingering issues with his team. Nin needs to continue to trade as well. I was talking about Toxic. Nin needs to continue to trade. I think you might even want Gengar back, honestly.
Yeah, and actually one thing that I'm noticing, like these mons, once they were dropped, they couldn't be picked back up this week. I can see, since C Rad dropped Lantern, I can see him going back and picking up that Rotom next week.
Yeah.
Which is kind of terrifying, but like I can see something like that happening. Out of these Mons that were dropped that will probably get picked back up, I am going to say probably Rotom and Gengar.
Yes, I would agree with that. I could also potentially see Caparaja and Butterfree getting picked up as well.
Yeah.
I think Butterfree is the more likely of the two.
Oh, for sure. But I do think that is it. Do you have any final words?
Yeah, this was a pretty solid first week for the season. There were some surprises from what I'm seeing here that are exciting to see. I'm glad that we're getting surprised. I think overall, from what I can tell though, matches seem to be going really smoothly. It seems like the coaches really got a solid grip on what they want. The pickups this week are telling me that the coaches care and they're thinking critically about what they need their teams to be doing.
Right.
Because I really don't disagree with any of the pickups, for example.
And
I think
the people who
the only
didn't pick
thing-
anything up, I think they made the right choice of not changing anything, like John
Yeah, I
and
would
Hubbub.
agree. Yeah, Hubbub does not need to change anything on that team comp at the moment, I don't think. And I would say the same about John as well. And I'm very interested. I would love to see a match with John, especially because I really want to know what's going on in his head. One thing that also about John's team, this is a kind of a weird closing tangent, but one thing I noticed about John's team is the man has unbelievable water spout spam potential between both Jellicent and Blastoise. Watch out for that, coaches.
Yeah, so you're not actually going to be able to see a game with him unless he records it himself because he's playing C Rad this week. So.
Gotcha. All right.
Yep.
Well, that's all I have for you. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. I
Best
guess
luck to all the coaches.
I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.